Did you know that we have channel memberships now? If you'd like to help support this channel, get some exclusive Kawabana emotes to use in the comments, as well as an exclusive badge by your name, click that join button now to find out more. Every bit of support really helps. Thanks guys. Back in December 2009, a story was shared on Ni Channel that came to be known as Hitchhike. Nowadays, it's considered one of Ni Channel's all-time classics, and if you haven't listened to it yet, or if you just want to recap, I'll link the Kawabana episode it's featured in the comments. This week, we're going to be taking a look at this famous story and the surprising truth behind it. First, a very brief recap. Hitchhike tells the story of two young men just out of university who decide to hitchhike from the top of Japan all the way back down to their home at the bottom of Japan. Roughly halfway back, in the Koushin area of Kanto, they happen across a camper van with a strange family. They hesitantly accept a ride, but soon realize it's a mistake. The father wears a suit and cowboy hat, the mother wears garish makeup, and there are elderly twins who drink, burp, and eat lollipops together but don't otherwise talk. There's also something making noise in the back that they're not allowed to look at. The family invite them to dinner, despite the fact that it's after 2 AM, and when they stop, the two boys finally make a run for it. Why? Well, there's another big guy already cooking dinner way out in the mountains, and they don't want to stick around to find out if they might end up in the pod as well. And they finally see what's in the back of the van as well. A deformed face screaming, "Mama!" The rest of the story features the boys running from this weird family and the unnamed big guy, at some point ending up at a public toilet where they hear a girl's cries. They never find the girl, however, and brush it off because they're still in flight mode. Eventually, they get back to civilization and it turns out there was no camper van. The convenience store owner saw the boys walking away and was unable to stop them before they disappeared into the mountains themselves. A truck driver offers to take them to the nearest station so they can head home safely, done with their hitchhiking adventure, but on the way, they spot something that makes their blood run cold. It's the camper van, parked in a truck rest stop, but it looks old, like it hasn't been touched for decades. It's the same van, because it has the Christian cross on the front, and they find their bags inside too, which also look like they haven't been touched in decades. Something in the back screams, "Mama!" and they run off, and that's the end of it. They get home safely, but the trip and their near-death experience with a bunch of weirdos remains on their minds decades later. As you're no doubt aware, stories like this that are shared on Ni Channel are presented as true experiences. There's a massive online culture of sharing one's scary and/or supernatural experiences anonymously online, and numerous urban legends have been born out of these tales that, if not saved by readers, are often deleted and lost to the annals of time. Of course, the stories are only presented as true, and very few people actually believe they are, but playing along is part of the fun. Still, could Hitchhike have been a real story? Or, at the very least, inspired by real events? As it turns out, no. Not real events, anyway. But this famous creepypasta didn't just appear out of thin air either. The poster was inspired by something, just not real life. We hope, anyway. No, it turns out that this story was inspired by a little-known American horror movie by the name of Rest Stop. I'm about to spoil the entire movie here, so if you want to watch it yourself first, best run off and do that now. Rest Stop came out in 2006, a direct-to-video film that, I'll be honest, isn't amazing. But it does have an interesting plot that has to be somewhat pieced together. You're not directly told what happened, and you're left to infer events so the whole thing makes sense. To very quickly sum this movie up, a young woman and her boyfriend ditch home and decide to head to California. On the way, they stop at a rest stop so the woman can pee. When she returns, her boyfriend is gone and there's a camper van parked nearby. She eventually hitches a ride with them and discovers it's a family of weirdos who keep spouting off about sinners. There's a father, mother, twins, and, a deformed person in the back that she's not allowed to look at. She eventually runs and comes across someone known as the killer or the driver, a dude who's never seen but keeps trying to kill her and has apparently killed her boyfriend. At one point, when she runs back into the toilets, she hears a woman crying inside, but she's unable to help her. After much shenanigans, it seems she gets away, but nope. The driver appears behind her and cut to black. A year later, the rest stop has been revived and a woman in the toilets hears another woman crying. Turns out it's the protagonist, now dead and a ghost, trapped at the rest stop like the other woman before her. Mid and after credit scenes reveal the family killed the driver, and the sequel reveals that the driver's ghost then killed them. The rest stop is basically a trap for all of these ghosts, and they're unable to leave it, and that means the driver, the weird family in the camper van, and the girls in the toilets. Does any of that sound familiar? It should, because I just talked about it when describing Hitchhike. Now, obviously there are a lot of differences. Hitchhike doesn't just lift the story from Rest Stop straight as it is. Hitchhike is still very much its own story, but it takes some very clear elements from Rest Stop and uses those to create a similar, yet independent tale. First, and most obvious, the family in the camper van. This is pretty much taken straight as it is from the film, with Hitchhike slightly aging the twins and giving the father a cowboy hat, perhaps a nod at his American heritage. In both, the family are clearly not well and spout a lot of religious stuff, calling people sinners and whatnot. The big guy from Hitchhike is also inspired by the driver. You never really see him in either story, and he stalks the duo constantly in Hitchhike, like he stalks the woman in Rest Stop. Finally, the girl in the toilets. This is a bit of an odd moment in Hitchhike, and it makes more sense once you understand where it comes from. The boys stop at a public toilet on the mountain and hear crying coming from the girls' toilets. Yet, they can't find anyone in there, and when the campervan family then use those same toilets after, they don't appear to hear anything at all, despite the girls' loud cries. The crying stops once the big guy visits the toilets, and then the boys get spotted and run again. In Rest Stop, the girls are often killed in or near the public toilets, and several are heard crying inside. Or at least, they're ghosts that soon disappear. This toilet is almost like the nexus where everything emanates from, and the next girl will then hear the crying ghost in the toilets before she is targeted as well. Why did the boys hear a crying girl in Hitchhike? Because, just like Rest Stop, the big guy killed her there, and it's potentially that murder that trapped him and the campervan family in that area. This is not elaborated on in the story, and there's a throwaway line at the end where the truck driver reveals that a girl was murdered in those toilets a long time ago, but that was it. Knowing how the toilets work in Rest Stop, and how it works as a kind of main hub in the larger area where all the ghosts are forever trapped, that scene makes a little more sense in Hitchhike too. Just like Rest Stop, the campervan family and the big guy can't leave, and that's why their van is eventually found all dusty at a, you guessed it, Rest Stop, on their way out of town. In fact, this scene is also directly ripped from the Rest Stop sequel, where the characters exit a gas station and find the camper van sitting outside aged and apparently long abandoned. There's also a recurring incident throughout Hitchhike where the protagonists hear the Mickey Mouse Club theme, usually because the big guy is whistling it as he approaches. In Rest Stop, the song Amazing Grace can be heard over and over, generally at points where the protagonist is supposed to be scared and confused and danger is approaching. Unlike Rest Stop, in the end, both boys are able to escape and live out the rest of their lives without problem. Of course, because otherwise he wouldn't be able to share the story on Channel. But it's interesting to know where the inspiration behind this famous story came from and how changes were made to turn it into a similar yet different story, tailored for a Japanese audience as well. But what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you again next time.